Director of the UNISA Law Clinic Vacation Work Program, and today we'll be exploring South African labour laws with Mr. Mamarechane. We're about to have a question and answer session exploring the topic of South African labour laws following the viral video regarding workers' rights. Over to my fellow students for questions.
Greetings everyone. My name is Kanyile Mahlangu. I believe that as employees cannot give instructions that are demeaning and humiliating. Today, Mr. Mamarechane, I want to ask a question to you. Does the Basic Conditions of Employment Act allow an employer to change the nature of work unilaterally?
My name is UNISA Mamarechane, the current representative and the president of the South African Workers' Union, Yabashumi Sau. Look, there is no any other employer who has any form of that right that says they must take any form of decision unilaterally so, because there are also employees who should generally maybe have certain bias or views around that in as far as the labor law is concerned, and also maybe their views are concerned. But look, there are some of the other instructions that the employer can give unilaterally, but it must be within the law.
Greetings everyone. I am Tabile Butlenyamanzego. As we know, we are facing challenges in the workplace. People are being discriminated. Their contract ends without notice. I would like to ask Mr. Libusa, what are workers' rights in South Africa?
Look, the workers' rights are very, very, very broad, and we can't pinpoint, in fact, all the Labour Relations Act book is big like this. And of course, there are a lot of forums that, in fact, protects the workers and also the employers, by the way. So, for example, if there are issues that you have with your employer, most of them, they are procedural. You start internally, failure for internally. If the dispute is not yet resolved, then you take it to forums. Forums would be your CCMA, your bargaining council, depending on the type of the sector that you belong to. Some of the other sectors do not have bargaining councils, and therefore you take the matter to your CCMA, which CCMA will then start then your conciliation. Conciliation, you don't need attorneys. It's you and the employer. If you don't agree, then the matter, you take it to arbitration. Arbitration, if the matter is not resolved in your satisfactory, then you take it to the labor court.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Mamarechane, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever come across a situation where employer have brought off the union as a result of that the union is not longer protecting the employee?
Yeah, look, of course the South African Workers' Union have never been any of such victim, but part of the reason why there's a need for unions in the country and a need for activists that are prepared to defend the workers in the country, it's because of course, such unions, and in fact such individuals, not unions, but such individuals are there, because remember, a union is an institution on its own, but of course they've got individuals with different characters within, which you then have your shop stewards and all that, and therefore your shop stewards will then, at some point, in the union language, you say they are sleeping in the same bed with management. But it is the responsibility of workers when they realize that their leader, whom they elected, they are sleeping in the same bed with management, to change such particular leader and indeed elect leaders that have got their best interest. Because otherwise they will continue to change unions but still having the very same character of individuals who have appetite of sleeping in the same bed with management.
Good morning, my name is Angela Blessing Mahlangu. So regarding the viral video that has sparked interest and a national debate, this year's worker video, my question would be whether an employer can lawfully require employees to do duties that are outside their contractual job description. Thank you.
A chef should only focus on being a chef. Any other thing that any other thing that an employee would do outside of their contractual obligation, it becomes a problem, because if you then don't do it in the manner that it is expected, are they going to charge you or what? If that is the case, then it creates a problem. An employee, if you are a chef, you must simply just go there, grill your chips and grill your meat, finish and go back home. If there's issues of overtime, that's where now the employer should also in fact request an employee, are you available for overtime today based on this and that, and then we meet each other halfway. Obviously, there's hourly rate for every hours that you may work as overtime. But otherwise, it's up to an employee again if the employee will then agree. But they can't impose it and tell you that this is exactly what you should do.
Good day, colleagues. Today, my question to Mama Rehane relates to occupational health and safety. So, my question states that what does the Occupational Health and Safety Act 85 of 1993 states when employees do the job that is not in their job description?
In fact, Section 85 of Occupational Health and Safety of 1993 mandates employers to create a very conducive environment for the employees at the workplace in as far as issues of risk, health are concerned. The Department of Labour mandates, in fact, and give a directive to employers to make sure that there's proper health and safety at the workplace. Now, as I've alluded earlier, that there are inspectors, in fact, that are deployed by the Department of Labour to actually make sure that the employers are functioning within the prescribed labor laws.
Greetings everyone, my name is Marisha Sihlangu. Sir, I would like to ask you what kind of workers' rights were being infringed during this year's incident, and I would like to know why is it important for workers to know their rights.
Yeah, look, the Bargaining Council of Food and Restaurants and Hospitality, it's very clear in terms of what is the definition of a chef, the definition of back of house, the definition of a cashier, and all those kind of things. Now, it is also important in the country that trade unions should have proper workshops, not only train only the shop stewards, because shop steward would be one or two people, and then the rest, the shop steward may not have, in fact, even time to educate them. But it's also very much important that workers should also be aware of their rights. In the country, in my experience, young as I am, started a trade union at the age of 27 years. We've realized that in the country, majority of workers do not know their rights. In fact, if I could say 85% of workers in the country do not know their rights. Even those that you may think in institutions of higher learning do not know their rights.
Good morning, colleagues. Mr. Lubusa, my question to you is, do you consider the response given by steers as adequate, particularly taking into account the high rate of workers' exploitation and legislative non-compliance within the restaurant sector? Secondly, what recommendations does SAU intend to make in prevention of similar incidents in the future? Thank you.
The response given by the steers, I would say it was very nonsensical and lack any form of appreciation and lack of touch of Ubuntu around the issues, because I would say they have not made proper investigation, because after we communicated with the majority of the workers, they are not on the ground. I'm just of the view that it's just someone else who was just sitting there and saw it and said, let's just apologize. They don't mean it. Mind you, they still have their inspectors within their businesses, but they actually do nothing besides going there and eat burgers and marinated ribs and all that. And reality of the matter is that we as an organization, we are not in fact considering any of the letters that they have written, because they lacked touch of exactly what is happening. There are 90% of the foreign nationals, women are being abused. They knew. So when they get their inspectors come to these outlets, they are generally known by the workers as simply management, and therefore they don't have any form of a relationship with workers. So workers in that industry are still being treated as slaves in general. They have steers have no regard of their own employees. And it is for these reasons why there's perpetual or habits of then treating workers in a manner that it is not within the law. Recommendations is that workers should fully participate in trade unions, become activists in their own workplace, but of course do everything within the policies of the workplace and all that. But it does not, workers must in fact enjoy the freedom when they're at the workplace. And for them to enjoy the freedom at the workplace is for them to join their trade unions as a collective.
And lastly, what's your take on the employment of foreign nationals and the high unemployment rate in South Africa?
Look, in terms of the immigration law, section 38, it speaks very clear that employers should in fact should not hire employees that do not have proper documents, because obviously there are penalties and there's an imprisonment fine into them. But in South Africa, I am of the view that there's an intention of the corruption that is taking place in SAPS and in immigration, the department in terms of, in as far as Department of Home Affairs is concerned. Because the minute you find workers working in a particular industry or outlet without proper documents, the first person that must also be arrested is the employee and the employer. In many cases, the employers are not being arrested, and it's for these reasons they enjoy this form of exploitation, because most of the time there's literally nothing happens to them. They must be arrested, they must be put in prison, because in fact they are violating the laws of this country. With the high employment rate in the country, we don't need to have a waiter coming from a particular neighboring countries to do a waitering work. This is the work that could be done by students or other individuals within other community members within the country whom are suffering, currently sitting at home in Mamelodi in the corner, enjoying nothing and desperate of anything, and they end up being into criminal activities that some of them such is happening, and you can't say there's anyone else who's doing crime genuinely so, but we're saying that the country must make it possible, create a conducive environment for our brothers and sisters who are currently sitting in Mamelodi now, really hoping to get at least 6,000-7,000 end of the month. If the country, or unions in fact, or sellouts unions are failing to actually, when they enter in industries and realize that why are majority of the workers here foreign nationals? What is it that is, what defines a scarce skill here? Because I mean, to be a cashier, you don't need to go to America and fetch someone else to America to be a cashier here. You don't need to go to Zimbabwe and say someone else must be a chef. All of them are simply just unpacking things and just putting it on the grill and send it back to workers, because majority of these things are done somewhere else. Not like they're actually killing a cow there, or you need somebody else with a particular skill. Everything is well prepared. They're just putting it in your whatever and put it in the cut box and give it to people and eat. The reality of the matter is that we don't need any foreign nationals to be part of doing any work in the country that is not when they are literally providing none of anything related to the scarce skill.
And that brings us to the end of our session for our questions. Thank you to my fellow students, as well as, most importantly, Mr. Mamarkhane for the informative and insightful answers.